Retro Mondays.
A new year, a new season of Retro Mondays. Man, this game definitely brings back some memories for some of you, doesn't it? For those of you younger gamers, this was the best snowboarding game 10 years ago. In fact, after all these years, some elements of 1080 still lives on through other series like SSX and Shane White. Now, some of you may know that I reviewed its sequel, 1080 Avalanche, back in 2008, and while some of you agreed with my viewpoint, many did not. But hey, I can't please everyone, right? Rather than going the route of the Cool Borders series for the PlayStation, Nintendo opted for a more traditional experience. Thus, at Space World 97, 1080 was born. The game's development was a joint project between Nintendo's own EAD and some of the staff from the Wave Race 64 game, hence why the experience and gameplay feel very familiar to each other. To further add to the game's continuity of the two series, various characters appeared in future installments. In 1998, 1080 released in Japan on February, April in the US, and November in the United Kingdom. The game released on its 10-year anniversary on the Wii's Virtual Console for about 1,000 Wii points. What made this snowboarding game stand out and bury Cool Borders was its fast-paced gameplay, multiple game modes, and amazing graphics. We're talking cutting-edge stuff, folks. Unlike other games in its genre, this one focused more on the racing aspect rather than just solely doing tricks. Players had the ability to select 6 different game modes. Trick Attack was all about performing gnarly moves and landing them to get the best score. Contest had you doing some tricks, but mainly you were boarding through flags and performing in the air make and the pipeline. Time Attack is just how it sounds, race the clock to finish the race. Just avoid doing tricks and wiping out. 2-player versus has you going up against a friend, and it's not too bad. Lastly, we had the Match Race, which featured 3 difficulties, and you must complete each to open up a new course and of course boards. Anyway, how the game works is after you select your rider, you then got to pick your own board. All the boards had unique stats to them that could prove beneficial or a major drag. Keep in mind, for the actual race, the players have a health bar, and once it drops while your character is retired. Now, if you've played Wave Race 64, then you guys and gals should be right at home here. Controls are great, but there are a lot of advanced elements to this game that aren't so awesome. I would be lying if I said this was an easy game to play when it so isn't. It has such a steep learning curve and will take you some time to master, especially when it comes to landing the jumps. Ooh, that one's gotta hurt. See, what the Big N expects players to do was to carefully position your board and hold in the Z or L button in order to land. But if you miscalculate just a little bit, well, get ready to eat snow, bud. Personally, the whole realistic approach kind of was a major bummer for me. This series was a lot harder than Wave Race 64 ever was, and I can honestly say to you all that I can't pull off the 1080 trick to save my life. Ever. Controls weren't completely terrible, but this game definitely just sucks all the fun out of it, especially racing against the CPU. The AI riders are downright ruthless in this game, so if you haven't thrown a controller yet, well, get ready to start. The AI is almost invincible during a race. Do you know how annoying that is? Except for a few predetermined places where they will crash on purpose. What, are you kidding me? This gives you a chance to get ahead of them, but don't hold your breath or breathe a sigh of relief either, because these guys can automatically catch up to you no matter what. What this does is it makes keeping your sanity and stress levels down during an expert run nearly impossible. Unfortunately for the Virtual Console version, the controls are a downright joke. It just doesn't compare to the N64 controller. In fact, it's not even a contest. My final issue with this game is the visuals playing co-op. I really can't believe for over 12 years I missed this major flaw. I still don't know how this happened. It looks just as bad, if not worse, than the PlayStation snowboarding games. The polygons are hilarious. They're all like pointy and they just look so bad. No detail in the snow and weather effects are completely absent from this mode. Again, how on earth did I miss this over the years? I guess I was blinded by the fun factor. In any case, don't worry, I do have some nice things to say about this game too. Let's start with the graphics, shall we? For its time, the N64 game really stood out in a crowd. No wonder critics called it the best looking snowboarding game ever. Everything just looks so fantastic, especially the lens flare and the sheer amount of detail that they packed into the environments. That's very impressive. Well, for single player at least. As you're going down the mountain, you're just transported into this world and you feel like you got the board attached to your feet. Just seeing the shredded snow, and this was just as real as it could get for '98. Stages also had unique environmental touches to them as well, like fallen snow, going through nasty blizzards, and going across lakes covered in thick sheets of ice. Likewise, the characters would interact with the changes to the maps too. Like when they hit thicker snow, they would slow down and have to use their hands to help them turn, otherwise they're going to get stuck in the snow. Then when they're on the ice, it made it impossible for them to turn, and of course you're going to slam into the wall, which was pretty funny. All the courses are represented so well, it's hard for me to pick a favorite. But if I did have to, I would have to say the snowstorm, traveling inside the ice cavern so we can see the reflections, and of course boarding at night. Musically, this game also has another ace up its sleeve. I was still really surprised to learn that the game's composition came from the same man that brought us the amazing tunes from Mario Kart 64. I kid you not. What makes this composition stand out is it offers so much diversity in its tracks. From rock, rap beats, techno, and even some metal. The song that I can remember the most that's drilled into my brain is the annoying Call Me song. I don't know why, but it's just stuck in my head. Before Pro Skater ever hit the market, if you wanted to get some serious air, then 1080 snowboarding was your game. This game offered players ample time to pull off tricks in the air. From jumping off high cliffs, ramps, and even vaulting over cars, which was awesome. Performing tricks varied, but after practicing them for a while, you were pulling off grabs and 360s with ease. Heck, even the 500 and 720s with no issue. Two-player mode, aside from the graphics I mentioned, the overall experience was fun. I also noticed that the frame rate kept constant and didn't slow down at all, but this is probably due to removing the environmental changes. Truthfully though, the gameplay is what I call a hit and miss for an N64 game of this caliber. Sure, anybody's going to be able to pick up and play this game, but only the dedicated player is going to stick around to be abused by the game's challenging advance moves and punishing AI. Controls got so bad for me that I ended up destroying a classic controller because of it. So the fact the game made me that angry? While amusing to watch, K-Wife didn't find it all that funny. Needless to say, even Tommy Hilfiger's outright product placement just doesn't seem to be enough for today's gamers in order for this game to be interesting to them. For us older fans, though, we will find enough nostalgia to spark owning this game again, or in our case, re-owning this game again. But for me, this is one N64 game I wish I still had in my collection. That way I could compare the two versions, because frankly, I don't remember the game being this aggravating. But again, I have no way to look at the other versions because I had to go with the Virtual Console port. In terms of everything this game has to offer, well, I think it's worth owning if you're going to play the game on the normal difficulty. If you're going to go for the more challenging aspect, then be prepared to turn into the Incredible Hulk. So, in conclusion, 1080 Snowboarding was one of the last mainstream games to totally outright abuse the gamer. And for a generation, that's how our video games were defined. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave it up to you guys to decide whether or not you actually want to go through and get this game on the Virtual Console. If you're going to own this game, I would strongly advise getting the N64 version, because you're not going to run into the same problems as the classic controller. Thus wraps up another episode of Retro Mondays, where I'm here to make your Mondays and retro fun again. unless the show is on a scheduled break. But hey, with 40 episodes this year, I don't think you guys can complain. In any case, thank you so much for watching the second season of Retro Mondays. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and until we meet again, gamers, God bless and happy gaming.